Unusual Whales released a phenomenal report on all the stock trading going on in Congress right now. Let me show you that. They say, breaking news, I have just released the full trading report on politicians in 2021. In short, many beat the market, of course. They traded more than ever before, and they made numerous unusually timed trades, resulting in huge gains. So you see there on the right, all the people who were doing it. You have Austin Scott, Brian Mast, French Hill, nice name, French Hill, John Curtis, Dan Crenshaw. Look, all the top ones are Republicans. Then you have Nancy Pelosi right there, who's one of the worst. David Rausner, David McKinley, and the list goes on and on. Listen to this. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been exchanged on the stock market by our elected officials in 2021 alone. In just equities, Congress bought and sold nearly $290 million throughout the year. In 2021, Congress beat the market. This report shows which sectors were preferred by each party and branch. Oftentimes, huge trade amounts could be attributed to one or two members. Big legislative events, such as the infrastructure bill getting passed by the Senate, were often preceded by politicians trading in the sectors affected. There were tons of unusual trades where politicians made millions of dollars. Congress has 45 days to disclose trades to the public. Sometimes they are late, and you can see a list of late disclosures here. Some politicians held securities in the sectors they vocally expressed support for, such as senators holding cryptocurrencies while drafting crypto regulations. Gee, I wonder if those are going to be strong regulations. This report highlights many of these and other unusual instances. So, they go on to say, I'll give you a little bit more here. So they said 290 million in stocks. 290 million. That corresponded with 3,500 transactions by 105 members of Congress, $140 million in options contracts. That's 270 transactions by 6 members. Those are the big players. 124 million in other securities like private equity funds. That's over 200 transactions by 19 members. And $500,000 in cryptocurrencies. That's 25 transactions by 6 members. There were 430 members who did not take a trade in 2021. Now, credit to these people. I'm sure many of them will, because they see that their colleagues are getting away with murder. But at least for right now, some of them, look, AOC said it. I'm tough on AOC when she's done bad stuff, but when she does good stuff, I say it. She says, listen, I can't, in good conscience, I can't play the market because I'm directly responsible for passing laws that affect the market. So, I mean, that definitionally insider trading. And you can try to move stocks to personally profit, and that's exactly what these assholes do. I mean, we saw Tom Price, the former head of Health and Human Services under Donald Trump. He was invested in a company, I think it was a medical device company, and then he was pushing legislation or on a committee that gave them a tremendous amount of money and drove up the stock price. And so he got rich as a result of that. And everybody knows the story about Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi's husband is out there making millions of dollars in trades on insider information from Nancy Pelosi, and then, oh, would you look at that? He always ends up winning. Look, they beat the market. They beat the market. Now, do you think they beat the market because they're just such good, intelligent investors, or because they have inside information? We know it's because they have inside information. There was that meeting just before we knew how bad COVID was, and there was a giant market crash. They had an internal meeting where there was a wink and a nod. It's like, hey, dog, just letting you know, this virus is a lot worse than a lot of people are saying. So, do what you will with whatever you got going on in the marketplace, skis, but I'm just saying, I'm trying to help you out a little bit. And then you had Kelly Loeffler, who, they sold massive amounts of stock at the time. And who's the other one in Georgia? I forget his name. Two, comically corrupt politicians. By the way, this is one of the main reasons why Warnock and Ossoff won, is because you had their opponents were just openly, brazenly corrupt, and then there was no accountability for it whatsoever. So the voters were like, oh, okay, we got this. We got these people who are corrupt, who are looking out for themselves and making millions of dollars because they knew a market crash was coming. And then you have Warnock and Ossoff, who were campaigning hard on $2,000 checks and calling out the corruption. Now, by the way, the reports were at the time when Biden backed off and made the 1,400. Who was pushing him hardest behind the scenes to say, no, do 2,000? Ossoff and Warnock. Because their word was on the line. So, and by the way, again, credit to Ossoff. I guess him and Warnock really do credit the corruption of Loeffler and the other one to them winning. So Warnock, when Pelosi was like, oh, it's a free market, we shouldn't stop Congress people from trading, Warnock was like, huh? And he snubbed Pelosi and proposed a bill to ban not only people in Congress from trading stocks, but also their family members and their staffers. Correct. That's the right thing to do. It's obvious. The fact that this isn't already illegal, look, the least you could do is fine them whatever profit they made plus 25%. So that's a big disincentive. Okay, all your profit gone. We're going to tax it back. We're going to fine it back. And then we're going to another 25% on top of that. Because you shouldn't have done this in the first place. You knew it was immoral. You knew it was unethical. You did it anyway. That's the least you could do. But in a world that made sense, here, walk with me here and think about such a glorious world that would make sense. They'd serve jail time. Look, you guys know one of my more off the beaten path opinions is that I think corruption should be punished, honestly, like it's one of the worst crimes, because it is. Because that's how a nation degrades over time. So it should be punished like it's murder, or like it's assault, or like it's rape. You should get hefty prison time for corruption. And I'm not talking about, the next level of your quid pro quo. You need to have Bob saying to Jim, "Hi, Jim, I'm going to give you this amount of money and you should do this for me in return." No. It should be a much more reasonable standard than that, because all of Washington, D.C. runs on corruption and everybody knows it. But they get away with it. And they get away with it for a number of reasons. But, one of the main reasons is the Supreme Court effectively said money equals free speech. So donations are, sky's the limit. You could donate a ridiculous amount to PACs. You could donate a lot to campaigns or individual politicians or party structures. And that has to end. Now, unfortunately, you'd probably need a constitutional amendment to change that in any serious way. And that's hard to do because you need so much of the country, the states individually, Constitutional Convention, get the states together. What is it? 3/4 or 2/3 or something like that. So it's a lot. It's a lot to do. Obviously, that should be done. And outside of that, whatever can be done legally or through executive order needs to be done. But this is just a start we're talking about here. Because campaign contributions are also a form of bribery and corruption. But this is even further, because this is individual and personal corruption. This is like, literally, I will trade stocks and then vote on what's going to happen with my money I just invested. So if you invest in Google, let's say, are you going to pass strict regulations that might hurt their bottom line? No. If you invest in some low-wage company, are you then going to support a $15 minimum wage, which would, in turn, raise the wages of the workers, but maybe hurt the bottom line of the shareholders? No, you're not going to do it. They all have conflicts of interest. It's a sick joke. This is a sick joke. If we heard this about Russia or Iran or other countries, we'd be like, look at this banana republic bullshit. This clear oligarchy, kleptocracy, corporatocracy nonsense where you have the elites rig the rules in their favor, get away with it, and everybody else is struggling. I mean, if you work full-time in this country and you make the minimum wage, you don't make a living wage. You don't make enough money to survive. But you got politicians who are waltzing around on a $200,000 salary or thereabouts, and then they make $7 million, or their family does, through investments, and they're serving these corporations. It's a sick joke. We all know it's a sick joke. Ban them from doing it right now. And as far as I can tell, every normal person agrees on this. When you talk to average Joes and Janes, whether they're Republicans, Democrats, Independents, or something else, everybody's like, of course. Now, by the way, Pelosi, of course, swatted this idea aside because she's corrupt and her family's corrupt and her husband makes a shitload of money and they beat the market. So now you had McCarthy float, the Republican leader. He's like, yeah, we're going to take a look at banning stock trading. Let me be clear. Is he actually going to do it? Hell no. Not a snowball's chance in hell. Not a snowball's chance in Satan's rectum. He ain't doing that shit, but he's at least smart enough to know to posture politically. To act like, oh yeah, we're the populace, we're going to do that. You ain't doing Dickie McGee's acts, but he's outflanking the Democrats on the left in that respect. Pathetic. Credit to John Ossoff. Everybody needs to get on board with this. This is a crime, man. And this is Pelosi's legacy. If she's going to retire, and indications are she will, the last thing people are going to know you for, she said, oh, Build Back Better is my legacy. How'd that work out? You didn't get dick through. What your real legacy is what's happening right now. You were directly confronted with your personal corruption and profiteering off the marketplace through insider trading, and your response was, free market, That is your legacy, Nancy Pelosi. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.